Good. So, hello and welcome to what is the 10th Insurindex podcast. So today I'm really delighted. This is going to be good. I'm really delighted to welcome Mike Bottle, who's MD of the UK operation of Arch Insurance, and Janice Mullan, who is Regional Manager, South and Thames Valley. Got that right? Just a few words on Arch before we start and get into this. So Arch is part of the Arch Capital Group, which is a global insurer with over 16 billion in gross written premium. And in the UK, its regional business is growing rapidly. And you've combining London market expertise with regional delivery, which is something we're going to talk about, which is really interesting. And I must say that Arch has also achieved the Gracechurch UK Underwriting Service Quality Mark for the 4th consecutive year. So well done to both of you. I have presented it before to Mike in the file.
Did he not drop it?
He's very good. He keeps it, yes. And then it sits on a shelf. But that's good. Great. So I'm just going to start. I always start with kind of little bits about personal journeys because people want to hear that stuff. So let me just start with you, Mike. First of all, welcome.
See you.
Can I just ask, I'm going to trick you slightly and ask you what you wanted to be when you were a young lad.
I think, to be honest, I think I probably was destined to be in the insurance industry anyway.
Right,
I had no great plans to be an astronaut or anything like that. I had parents in the industry, so a lot of my summer holidays, if I wanted to earn any cash, would work in a local broker's.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that classic dilemma of after A-levels, do you go on to university or do you go and get a proper job? Someone organised some work experience for me in Lloyd's. And I think it was pretty much within the first hour of being taken into the 86 building and just thinking, this feels absolutely right for me. And after a week of that was it. I applied for a job, got a job with Kiln, and that was the start of the career.
Yeah,
So,
great business. And that whole Lloyd's thing is it shows, a load of people have said that, haven't they? That kind of hooks them in a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a very unique trading environment and it just felt right for me. So, no regrets.
You should make that point. Lloyd shouldn't lose that. That's really important, really important. So, Jan, what about you? Were you destined to be insurance like Mike?
No, absolutely not. I listened to one of your earlier podcasts, and again, the gentleman was like, "Oh, I definitely wanted to be in insurance." Yeah. No, I went to college to be an English teacher.
Oh, right, cool.
And decided I needed some money. Dropped out of college, went to the job centre, and they literally said, "Can you make eye contact?" Yes.
Yeah.
Can you answer a phone? Yes. And off I went to Royal Insurance, as was.
Right.
And that was it. Never looked back.
I never thought I'll leave insurance. I'll get out of it. Yeah.
No. And do you know what? I do say to our team, insurance is fun. You have to find the fun in this industry because something different hits you every day. So, yeah.
And I think we've had, I mean, you know, this, as I said, is podcast 10, but in all of them, we've asked the same question. Everybody does like it. So, you know, when we get to podcast 1,000, I'll do a compilation of everyone saying how much they love the insurance industry.
I think we probably don't do enough to sort of market it as an industry.
No.
There's an awful lot of opportunity within what we do, and I think that's what keeps it exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it is. I mean, it is interesting, and we're going to talk about all of that, of course, and why it's so interesting in Arch. So, just a bit, maybe, Mike, about the kind of Arch UK recent story, because it is quite recent, really, isn't it? Just maybe describe that for people, because I'm not sure everyone knows that and how that has come about.
Yeah, so I mean, Arch as a group has been around for over 20 years. In fact, it's our 25th year this year. But in terms of the UK regional presence, that was something that we established in 2019. So in market terms, relatively new kids on the block. And it was really a strategy from Arch that said we wanted to take that London market specialist underwriting out into the regions. We felt that was perhaps something that was missing. So we put together that branch network. We made sure we had flags in the ground in all the major centres around the UK. And it went from there. I think it was trying to be something different in the market.
And what was the start point? Was that about 2018, 2019?
First year on underwriting was 2019.
2019, yeah. So that was COVID time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think, you know, a couple of years in and that challenge came along. But I think maybe in many respects that was the making of
Mm.
the Arch regional presence. So in terms of a business that from day one we set up with that service proposition,
Mm.
just at that point when the market and our customers needed us most,
Mm.
we felt we were able to step up to the plate and deliver that service.
And just at that time, Mike, what was the kind of appetite that you had? Because you weren't going to be all things to all men. I mean, you weren't trying to be
No,
a composite in that
no, I
sense, were
think,
you?
despite the sort of consolidation in the broker market over the last 5, 6 years, we had a very clear intention when we set up that we would have that service proposition only available to a certain small number of brokers, very select to all of
Yeah.
our regional offices. Really to make sure if this was going to be a service-led proposition, we had to back ourselves to deliver that. So if we spread ourselves too thin, overpromised to too many brokers, then we were in danger of watering down that proposition.
Yeah, yeah. And you did a really good job of that. I mean, we know that through the data, and obviously the story's been a great success. And Jan, how did that kind of so interested to have someone now who's kind of on the ground doing the actual, the nitty gritty of it. How was that for
Right.
you? What was the experience?
I think Mike was right. Lockdown for us was kind of pivotal because we were able to get all the IT, all the equipment to home working. So
Yeah.
we were really responsive when the market needed that responsiveness. We were consistent, so that was another big tick. And as soon as we were able to get back into offices, in we went, and we were kind of the disruptor at that point
Yeah, you were.
because we were definitely ripping it up from being such a baby, such an innovative launch. We were then ripping it up, I think.
Yeah.
And let me just ask you, because culturally there must have been something right there culturally, was there, or was it just a kind of military plan to achieve this, or was it a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there was a military style plan to this. I think it was very much, I'd like to think, very much in tune with what the brokers were after. And we were small enough, nimble enough to adapt. As Jan says, we came out of COVID. One of the biggest challenges for brokers that we were being told about was that contact, communication, accessibility. So our commitment from, as soon as we were all allowed to get back into offices was to
You
make
really-
that stance, saying, right, we are going to be in the office
Yeah.
and we're going to make ourselves accessible to brokers. So
Yeah.
I think that was probably the core part of the plan, if there was that plan.
And that was to give you edge, wasn't it, really, I suppose, over
absolutely.
you knew that.
Yeah.
And I guess you knew that there were kind of quite a few insurers out there who really didn't do that for brokers. They kind of sat back a bit. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, I think for us, and we were expanding at that time, so we were looking to recruit, and I think it was. I mean, there's a number of challenges around recruitment back in those days, but I think for us, one of the biggest was finding candidates that were good enough, but also were prepared to work in offices, because that was a sort of a non-negotiable for us.
Yeah.
And others in the market didn't follow that strategy quite at the same speed that we did.
Right. Yeah. So how many people were there, Jan? What was the kind of rough numbers across that UK piece?
I think in each branch we were probably averaging around 10 to 15
Yeah.
at that point. So it was quite small, as Mike said,
Yeah.
quite innovative,
Yeah.
quite collaborative. That's the other key
Yeah.
word for us. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was still exciting,
Yeah.
I think. And everyone was just rowing in the same direction to make sure we were able to deliver that service.
And this may be difficult to answer, but how did you know? I mean, you're obviously writing business, but how did you know when it was working? Did you kind of go home one Friday and go, "This is really going well"? What were the kind of signs of that? I'm always interested in that because it's hard to know when things are going well in a business.
I think centrally we were getting a lot of feedback in real time, but also there's a lot of broker surveys out there, and obviously the Gracechurch survey is a great example. I think we take a lot of stock in what those reports are telling us. So I think we were, as I said earlier, we were able to adapt to where the brokers were telling us they needed. Where was that gap? Where could we service that would give us the edge? And then I think locally, it was just that community of having the team in the office.
Yeah. And certainly it was the broker feedback. We were contactable. They could
Yeah.
get hold of us. We were
Yeah.
accessible. And the biggest gripes at that point was they could not get hold of anybody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we
remember.
just became that insurer of choice naturally
Yeah.
because we were so accessible.
So how did you? I mean, I know you're absolutely right. I mean, everything has said from when we started, which is many, many years ago now, that access responsiveness, and clarity, clear answers and decisions is what they want. How did you kind of deliver that? What was it? Was it? It's got to be more than just people being enthusiastic, isn't it?
Well, I think we also, our tagline is still local trading empowered underwriters.
Yeah,
So it was making sure that we were visible as well as accessible. So able to go into brokers' offices and see them, speak to them, listen to what
yeah,
was needed.
yeah,
So yeah, that was very much a key thing for us, that visibility.
yeah. So that was the early days. So what is just reading it forward a bit? I mean, a lot has happened and is happening now in the market since then. What's your kind of sense of your, you've matured a bit as a business now, much bigger than you were, and
Yeah, I think
competition has changed. But what's those relationships with the brokers now? Has that changed at all? Or is it still the same
I think
approach?
fundamentally it's the same as Janice said. We're very much about being accessible, and it starts with the strength of the trading relationship. I think we've seen the marketplace where we play change quite dramatically. I think it's fair to say that in those early days we were very focused in the SME market.
Right.
Automation, digitalization's coming through, and that's getting better every year. So we've had to adapt the model. We're moving more into that mid-market space, but focusing investment also in that digital space. So it's almost like 5 years has seen us change from maybe a VSME market perceived as to more of a mid-market, but we're still remaining honest to that digital side of things.
Mm, mm. And the other thing I wanted to ask about was, I don't, and we've talked a lot over the years, but I've never really asked how your kind of huge focus on the broker, which comes through incredibly powerfully and is great, has worked really well for you. Does that kind of knock on in your minds, or, to that customer experience, to that actual end customer? How does that kind of work?
Yeah,
Do
I
you just
think
want the brokers to do it? Does it work if you just work with the brokers
no,
and not think
no.
about the
I mean,
customer?
we always put the customer first, but to us, where we sit, there's two customers. There's a
Yeah,
broker and
yeah,
there's an ultimate customer, and we
yeah,
make sure very clearly with our trading underwriters, in fact, all of the team, never lose sight of the fact that there is a customer there.
yeah.
Be it a claim that we need to respond to super quick, or there's a challenging, it's an emerging business where we need to make sure that we respond to the needs of that client at that
Mm,
time. So I think because we're one step back, we do have to rely more on the broker, but we see it as a sort of a three-way tripartite relationship.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we can only be relevant if we're delivering something that the customer wants.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So, Jan, I want to ask you a bit about, because you're on the ground, obviously, what's the most frustrating things nowadays for brokers? Because the market shifted, hasn't it? So it's kind of
Mm.
supposedly in their favour, isn't it now? So it's a bit softer and so on.
Yeah, so we were talking about this, and I think the top of any broker that we would ask would say staff.
Right.
So I look back years ago when I joined insurance. Young listeners, it does scroll back that far on the age. Is staff, and I think insurers used to be everywhere, and insurers used to be that training ground for those
Yeah.
people. That's kind of ebbed away. So we're trying to grow our own. So we've done a really successful apprenticeship program, trying to grow and get that absorbed from youth. But we also take people in. So in the southern region, we take people in from brokers to experience a day in the life of with
Right.
Arch.
Right.
So they can see from the other side what it is that can take a risk from an amber to a green for go.
Yeah.
So just really trying to encourage that positivity about the industry.
That's great. And that's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it, against the sort of AI, digital e-trading thing? How does that kind of fit with that?
Well, I think we're all about relationships. So my training, when I look back, was very, very basic. It was listening skills. You went out and saw direct clients. That was your training ground. But it was how to build relationships. And we've just fostered that all the way through. So I think AI has its place.
Mm.
And I think it can help us with efficiencies and productivity and processes. But ultimately, this is a people trading is a people skill.
Mm.
I think that transcends into the digital market, because what we're seeing is, the great white hope is that automation comes and end to end that process is
Yeah.
delivering, but
Yeah.
of course it's not. So the bit that makes the difference is the 1 in 5, the 1 in 7 cases that doesn't fit, that you need to be able to talk
Yeah.
to an underwriter. So again, reinforcing that empowered underwriters at the end of the telephone or the end of an email or a live chat. So the broker knows that whichever channel they're accessing Arch, the experience, that Arch experience, as we call it,
Yeah.
is exactly the same.
Yeah, and we saw that, I think, in the data we've had that, as you know, through the survey, was a sort of escalation points with e-trading, and then
Yeah.
nobody there
Yeah.
for a lot of
Yeah.
businesses. So it kind of stops at that point. That has, we've seen that improve, but still, it seems that in insurance you still need that person there somehow, albeit that a lot of tech people typically are claiming we don't need people at all, end-to-end processing. But you're saying quite different. And we are seeing actually data coming out now that is saying that there is more and more of this kind of in-person trading, particularly London market, where, people weren't going to offices and they're coming back now. So I
Yeah.
assume it's changing.
Yeah, I like it. I think for me, when I say insurance is fun, it is that trading. It is that ability to
Yeah.
look whites of eyes
Yeah.
and understand what the customer needs. And it's those listening skills and trading that I think set us apart. So as we say, AI definitely has its place, and it will help us grow, but we need the people for that relationship skill set.
And commercially, can that be efficient, Mike, with more people? I mean, you can still be profitable and
Well, in
make
terms of
it
the
work.
human touch,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think we evolve our appetite to suit that. I mean, ultimately, we've got to be very honest that for a lot of that smaller volume business, it has to be automated. It has to go through without touching the sides. I think what we're really trying to say to the broker community is that as that evolves, and we're not in control of the pace of that, and those guys aren't either, but we will match that with the service back up every step of the way. But as Jan says, I think if we look back to when we started, what did what was that role of technology back in those days compared to now, and the pace that that's moving now? Quote ingestion, all these sorts of things. We're not sure it's going to stop.
No.
We just got to make sure we make the investment, but we never lose sight of the fact that the broker just needs to be able to speak to someone at some point in the journey, and we'll be there for them for that.
Yeah. So it's really, I mean, so the bet is on people. People will endure through this. I mean, I kind of agree actually that it will, but tech will change. But you're right. And I think, Mike, in saying nobody really knows what's going to happen with the tech. It'll just happen and you'll kind of deal with it as we always do. So I just want to go back to local decision making. That still is something that you pride yourselves on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as I say, it's our tagline still to this day. We have branches with local empowered trading underwriters
Yeah.
that can get to see a broker. The broker can come in and see them. And it's about understanding the needs of the customer, linking that with pre-quote surveys, risk management, all the good stuff that you can get
Yeah.
to actually give the right solution for the broker.
Okay, so just going back to that access point and thinking about kind of USPs and things that you're really good at, which we've touched on or talked about quite a bit. What's that kind of like, Mike? What's that kind of access that you give that others perhaps don't give as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think our strategy will always be having that accessibility with the empowered underwriters. In terms of the competition, I guess as a market, as we said, it's evolving. I think others have taken to that volume digitalized world. Some have gone down that call center response route. Doesn't feel like it's the Arch way for us. So I think we will continue to evolve as we move more into that mid-market space. Just a real focus on being where the brokers need. So big tick regional space, we fully intend to keep that. It's just building on the model, I think.
And we've talked about it as being about selling insurance products, right? Which is fine, but is it also about the kind of regional differences or just having the local feel as well? Is that important anymore? Does anybody care with the
I
world of
think
advertising?
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
does.
so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we can't, the days of a local broker only concentrating on business in their locality has moved on slightly. But what I like about our branch network is if, one of the underwriters is looking at a risk in our Manchester office that happens to have locations in Southampton, they'll pick up the phone to one of Jan's underwriters and talk through the risk on the basis you're on the ground,
Local knowledge.
Exactly. So I think that's why we make that investment in offices across the whole of the UK.
So it's also back to those relationships. So those brokers can trust you and they can just give you a call about anything, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember doing the roadshow with Bieber, which I think you've been on, and so I mean it just seemed to me that the regions were so different in terms of how well or not they were serviced by insurers locally. And the variation could be like from East to West Midlands, where there was
Yeah.
one lot were moaning about no offices and so on, and then the other saying actually it's pretty good here. So it does seem that coverage isn't still quite right in the UK in some ways. So if you can do it, it fills lots of gaps, I guess.
Yeah, and I think one of our mantras is to be that first call for brokers. So when
Yeah.
there's a broker's got that challenging risk, the first insurer they think to call is going to be Arch, because they know we've got that local knowledge.
Yeah. So anyway, you're pretty big now, though. You were started off not
As a
very big.
baby.
Now you're getting pretty big. So what does scale help you with? I mean, or does it? I mean, it's
Without doubt, when we set up the UK regional division, we were acutely aware that we were the new kids on the block,
yeah,
and we needed to prove ourselves. And we wanted to do that, as we've already said, through service rather than being a huge disruptor on price or anything like that. But the size and scale of the Arch Group, and you've talked about the numbers, without doubt helps with the conversation, because ultimately, as you say, you're selling a piece of paper to a customer. So it's important that the broker is equipped with that size and scale story to just explain who we are. And I think the numbers speak for themselves of a group of our size.
yeah.
I think it actually surprises people just how big we are.
See, you got a brand. You built a brand as well. So I'm not going to ask you first, Mark. I'm going to ask you, Jan. What does the brand mean for you? What's the Arch brand mean for you?
I think you touched on it, actually. For me, Arch brand is a premium brand, but it's about trust and integrity for me. When we first became Arch, I was very much, we need to be rugby sponsors, cricket sponsors, we need all of it. And actually, we found just by doing what we do and doing it really well and engaging consistently, we've actually got the Arch brand over to our customers. So they know what we stand for. And I think that's what's exciting, is we're still building on that brand and we're still wanting to create more and more premium and looking at emerging risks and cyber defences, sciences. It is part of what we're going to evolve into.
Yeah. So you're some of the things you described are kind of old-fashioned values in a sense, aren't they? The way business has always been done, which
Trust, integrity. Yeah.
And those are great. And I think those are so important. But you've now touched on the world that's changing and is all about these, non-asset-based risks, intangible risks and so on. And that kind of what we've looked at, which is all about how does the insurance industry innovate? So where does that kind of innovative end of things come in? I know you're doing all sorts of risks and writing all sorts of risks.
Yeah, well, I think that again, that's part of the brand value of Arches. I think we've it's a fast-paced industry in many respects, and some of the stuff that we've talked about in terms of emerging markets. I think for me, the Arch brand is having the intellectual firepower within the group to take on those risks, understand those risks, be first mover in a number of those fields. So, I think exciting for us that we've got that capability and we can deploy it all the way through the group, right the way through to our regional offices with underwriters that can have those conversations where maybe the broker in partnership, we're all learning at the same time, and we can have those sorts of collaborative conversations around, this is a life science operation. We'll share with you what we know, give the broker some confidence to develop in that sector.
See, a lot of what I think you talk about as well in terms of your brand is trust, really, isn't it? You're trying to build trust, and the industry has had a bit of a challenge on trust. I think we've had the Which super complaint this year and other things that have come through, and the FCA's responded to that. What's your kind of? I think I know what you might say about Arch and how you're contributing. Can we build more trust in the industry, or is it just it seems to me it's very important to do that if we want to grow as an industry. And
I think
like yours are part of that, aren't they?
Fundamentally, I think you've got to do what you say you're going to do, and you've got to do it when you say you're going to do it. And I think that cuts out a lot of the noise. I think that's fundamentally how we get back to customers trusting insurers. And I think that's core to the Arch principles and the Arch way is very much to make sure we do that. Again, back to that service first proposition.
Yeah. And it's very competitive at the moment, isn't it? How's that? How are you experiencing that? Come on, Jan, give me a bit of a feel of it. What's it like out there?
So yeah, it's finding your way through it, and I think we're desperately trying to say all of those added values that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Is we're trying to use that risk management, the pre-quote surveys, to move it away from just the price.
Yeah.
And we are certainly not here to just write it, buy it in, and then drop it.
Yeah.
We are about saying we are long-term, sustainable, and want to really understand the customer's needs. That's where we're trying to take it away from this volatility.
Yeah. And is that working?
It is. Don't get me wrong. It is a little bit like treacle some days,
Mm.
but we are absolutely standing by, like you say, delivering on what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. Definitely, trying to have some fun in and amongst it and get
Yeah.
that trading values back. So again, it just takes it away from pure price because it is very competitive.
Because often there's a bit of a hit at the beginning, isn't there, when everybody says the market's going soft, and then you get hit quite hard. But then it kind of, do you feel it comes kind of then back to your people go, look, okay, we can relax a bit. We don't need to be chasing around, chasing every price down.
Well, I think there's a reality amongst all of us in the industry as to, the trajectory we could be on if we're not careful.
Yeah.
But I think, for those of us who've been in this market for long enough, these are cycles. They do come around again.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite interesting. As Janice says, we've had a very successful apprenticeship program. So we've got some youngsters in the business and sort of started when, well, I guess we were saying the market conditions were quite hard, and now we're into this period. And one of them just said to me, so we've gone from what we call a hard market where rates are at this level, and now we're dropping to a level that's below what's sustainable. Why do we do that? And we go, yeah, that's a really good question.
We don't know.
Fairly destruction.
But if you stick in this industry long enough, you'll come full circle again. So I think internally, it's about giving the underwriters confidence that this is a cycle. We have to hold our nerve. We have to maintain our disciplines.
So can I just ask you a bit about claims? Because claims has become more important, it seems, over the last few years. And not just because of cycles or shifts. I think it seems to me that brokers are saying, we need to use service, we need to use claims much more than we ever did. And they're kind of coming around to that. Are you experiencing that? Are you seeing
100%.
that?
Yeah. And I think, I think the industry, the wider industry has probably woken up to that fact in the last 2 or 3 years. I think with governance around placement now, a lot of brokers will say to us, look, if there were 3 or 4 factors why we'd pick a market over another market, claims would have been involved in the mix in the decision making.
Yeah.
But now, claims scores, surveys, reputation, all that sort of stuff. It's almost like that's in the top 2 reasons. We can't recommend it. Might be a really great price, might be great coverage, but if we know that their claim service isn't going to back that up, we cannot recommend it to our customer.
Right.
So we've been very clear to make sure we balance the claims proposition with the underwriting service proposition at every stage to make sure that we're not out of sync there.
And that's your experience. I'm sure it is your experience, but
Yeah, very much so. And I think I was only talking to someone today and we said everyone should have a stint in claims.
yeah.
That's what the customer's buying ultimately, is when they have that claim, they want to know it's going to be handled well, professionally. So yeah, it's really important that we get it right. And we've done an awful lot of work with that proposition, haven't we? And that's constantly listening to what could we improve? How can we do it better? But it is the measure of success. And some of our brokers where we've had a large claim, we say, look, we've done that really well. Loss adjuster's been out.
Yeah.
We've spoken. We've had Teams meetings. We get to a point where we can say, actually, yes, this is something we can pay and look after the client with. Repeat customers.
And it is, as you say, it's really where the insurer gives value, isn't it? But it has been kind of
Definitely.
underappreciated and not really.
Yeah. Everyone should do claims, I think.
Yeah. But so I just want to kind of grab the point. It does seem to me very important in terms of how this conversation goes nowadays, which is that actually people like you, importantly, are saying that actually claims now is a business winning and retaining
Absolutely.
feature of a business
Yeah.
insurer, isn't it? Which I don't think they said as much, certainly not 10 years ago.
Oh, no, not at all. And I think, as an industry, we probably weren't helping ourselves back in those days. Whereas now I think so much more of the focus is on the actual service side of claims. This isn't just a numbers game anymore. There is various stages of a claim that we need to make sure we service properly. Because you say, it's the one time where you see your customer is most vulnerable,
Yeah.
we need to step up.
So we've said it's a kind of, we don't know what's going to happen, but I've got to ask you about AI. What's going on in the business? What's your kind of sense of the kind of opportunities there, and where you'll go with it? I mean, you've got great traditional values and so on. But
Yeah,
how
but
does
I
it
don't
feel?
think they're opposing values there. I think for where I see it is it's an inevitability. I think it has real merit in the service proposition. I think what it does for us and where we're approaching it is anything that we can do from an AI perspective that delivers to the underwriter more information, more data, quicker.
Yeah.
We've invested in the underwriting stock to be there to make the ultimate decision, the instinctive risk selection decision. So AI has got a part to play in that, to deliver all of that up to the underwriter on the screens in front of them. Go, everything's telling me this is a great example of its kind, but I know because I drive past that every day, or I've been there before, or I remember a claim on that. And it's that balance that I think is where we'll continue to win.
Yeah. What about you, Jan?
Oh, I'm all for embracing it, really.
Yeah.
And as Mike said, it can add and complement. It certainly won't detract, because if anything, it just gives the underwriter more time to do the role of assessing the risk and speaking to the broker.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all for embracing it.
And I guess it'll do a lot of the sort of boring stuff that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in insurance.
Yeah, I think it's working with the underwriters to try and break out from the role, the stuff that say, we really don't need you to do that. Your expertise is in that instinctive risk-taking part.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do to automate the low-level tasks, for me, great, just makes us more efficient.
So this conversation, in a way, says to me that you've got to build businesses now like Arch, where you've actually got those people skills in there. Because if you haven't got them, and then you automate half of it, then those people are a bit redundant if they haven't got those skills, aren't they? Because they're the growth engine potentially.
And I think the caliber of
Yeah.
staff that we've got are such that they can adapt as this industry's changing anyway. So I think I talk to a lot of the guys around the regions, and they're all embracing AI. I don't think any of us are fearful of it. So yeah, I think it's only good.
Yeah. So the message is, if you've got more, if your human skills are more adept or advanced in these businesses, you're probably more ready for AI to bring it in. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, no, I
from where
think
you
that's
are?
fair. Yeah, and I think equally in the regions, we do an awful lot of soft sales skills with the teams,
Right.
just in helping them how to trade, so that as and when they've got more time, they're embracing now teams and going, actually, I've got time to go and speak to the broker about this risk in more detail, because everything's been delivered to me front end.
Yeah, which is exactly what they've predicted.
Yes.
That the sales skills will become more important,
Sales
not less.
skills, definitely.
Yeah, and that you think they are becoming more important now, and you're able to train people because you're obviously doing apprenticeships and things.
Yeah.
And just as a quick side question, is sales a really important part of those apprenticeships and those kind of skills as to how you bring people in?
Well, it certainly has been from our part, hasn't it? That we've invested an awful lot of time with them to sit with them, not just on the process, but just how to engage and speak to people and what the end client might want. So it's really easy to say, oh gosh, I've got to go back by then, but the renewal date isn't till 4 weeks away. No, but the client might be going on holiday, so it's just giving them an overall understanding of why we do what we do.
It's great. I mean, I think one thing I'm going to commend you on is not mentioning the word technical in the whole of this chat that we've had. So
it's probably a technical reason why we haven't been.
But it often is a defensive word. I mean, I think it's quite defensive. We're technical, but it doesn't really. But you said it's more about it's about the skills and the human skills that really matter to Arch, and those are becoming more important, not necessarily less, which is really interesting. So let me just kind of finish off a bit. This has been brilliant. Just to talk about what you think success looks like for you in the next 5 years. Go on, give it a go.
I think success for us is still doing what we do and holding that client and broker, that level of understanding, and complementing it with sales adaptability, that nimbleness of where we first came from.
I think for a division that's only been sort of around for 5 or 6 years, relevance is a word that I've used throughout. And I think success for me would be in 5 years' time is if we can I'm still being told by our brokers that we are relevant to them. And that does mean, as we've said, we'll have to evolve. they'll evolve. But yeah, I think for me, that's what is at front and center of my mind, is making sure that as we evolve through technology and everything else we're doing, we retain that relevance to brokers as that market of choice, first call, expert underwriters that you can get hold of. So,
And
it's
underwriting integrity as well.
absolutely.
That's a lovely note. I think that what you said as well through this is so clear about the relationship with brokers, which is often not what you hear. You hear a bit of equivocation, but your clarity of that just seems to come through very strongly. I think before we sat down today, I kind of knew that, and that seems to be a driving
I think the
force.
DNA of the team,
Yeah.
certainly Jan, myself, and my colleague, there's a sales and relationship element to what we've done in our careers. I think we've all been underwriters, I'm sure, at some point, but the larger part of my career has been in relationship management.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to make sure you never lose sight, as we said earlier, never lose sight of the client, be that the broker or the customer. Keep that in mind. Everything else should fall into place.
Brilliant. And on that note, as everything falls into place, look, I'm going to wish you great success. It was a fantastic chat. We'll
Thanks,
watch
Ben.
how technology develops and everything else develops, but I'm sure you'll carry on being successful, and you'll grow, and you'll be more than relevant. So thank you very much. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Ben. Cheers.